Charlie died because he swallowed something that he shouldn't have. The coroner agreed that contributory cause was negligence, medical negligence on the part of the hospital. My name's Rosalie Lander. I'm a mother of Charles Lander, who died in hospital 3 years ago. It was an avoidable death due to negligence by the hospital. A doctor from the hospital, I think he was a registrar, and obviously condolences about the death of your son. He said, I am happy to sign a death certificate on the basis of intestinal obstruction. We don't think a post-mortem is necessary. My son was dead. Post-mortem, what's the point? But because he was in hospital for less than 24 hours, it had to be reported to the coroner. And the coroner insisted on a post-mortem. It was as a result of the post-mortem that the diagnosis was shown to be wrong. Now, anybody can make a mistake on a diagnosis. It's very easy to be wise after the event, as we all know. And it was really only at the inquest that the coroner wasn't happy.
Charlie was born in what was Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe.
He's the middle one of 3 children. During pregnancy, he failed to grow adequately and he was in fact rescued.
I am Alexandra Lander. Charlie was my older brother.
Charlie came to Britain after we'd settled here. We were still only a year old at that stage.
Well, I remember those early days at Botley's Park, which was the long stay hospital that he lived in when we first came back from Africa. He was happy at Botley's Park.
And there was a freedom there.
Yeah. He moved out of Botley's Park into the care and community house. And he was one of the first to go. And he was on the news at 10, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
Because he was that first cohort into, trying to get people with learning disabilities into the community. I remember when you made him that birthday cake. It had "Happy Birthday Charlie" piped on it, and you'd spent hours on this birthday cake, and he walked in and he put his hand in the middle and shoved it straight into his mouth. And
he enjoyed it.
It was his birthday cake, so he could do with it what he wanted, absolutely. I suppose.
When Charlie was in his 30s, he was admitted to hospital with vomiting and refusing food, which was very unusual for him. And subsequently, he was found to have a perforated bowel. When they operated, they found that in fact the perforation was caused by plastic which had become impacted in his small bowel. Up to that time, we knew that Charlie had this problem with pica. We didn't realise he was swallowing items of plastic. Normally, they just sort of passed through, and I think we more or less assumed that that's what would happen. But unfortunately, the plastic had become hard and caused a perforation. He had a very, very stormy post-operative period.
Yeah, it was quite sudden that he became ill. You phoned me up and said they've taken Charlie into hospital and he's being operated on tonight. And then he was just very, very ill. He was in hospital for about 6 weeks.
6 weeks, yeah.
And we really didn't think he was going to survive.
No. Again, he developed the same symptoms, vomiting off his food, and they were worried. He seemed to improve. He wasn't absolutely right, but they said, we think he's responded to treatment, and he was discharged home. And he just wasn't right. They said he's still not right. And so some concern, later in the day, they took him again. He was in A&E on a trolley from about 11:30 in the morning. Apparently they found a bed for him at about midday. They told me that he was in A&E and they hadn't decided what to do, what procedure there was. I said, well, let me know what happens. Anyway, subsequently he was admitted to the ward at 11 o'clock that night. And there's really no explanation as to why. So he was admitted to the ward and they rang me at 11 o'clock. I said, I'll come in the morning and see him. No medical staff contacted me. And then at 4 o'clock in the morning, I was woken up and they said, I'm sorry to say he died. And I got a terrible shock. And to be fair, I think they did too. I don't think they realised how ill he was.
I think, the real thing that sort of sticks with you is that nobody called you
No.
to say that this was serious. And had Mum known about
I don't think they
the white
realised
cell
it, yeah.
counts, but if you'd known about that sort of thing, you would
Absolutely,
have been there.
absolutely.
I mean, they may not have put 2 and 2 together, but just one reading like that, is enough really to have phoned you and said, this is the situation, can you come? You should come. And I think, it's a cause of great upset to you that you weren't with him. Or,
you blame yourself. If I'd been there, it would have been different. It would have been different.
And I think in one of the last reports, that we had from the hospital or from the specialist that the coroner asked, he said that he should have been operated on that last admission. And had he been, then he probably would have lived. Now, as we were explaining before, he didn't recover well from his last operation. And so from our perspective, we are conscious of the fact that Charlie probably would have gone through that same thing and wasn't as robust as he was before. So he may not have survived. The point is that he should have had a chance at survival.
At no time during Charlie's 3rd admission was he seen by a consultant. I don't think there was any awareness of how ill he was. I think they wanted to believe the original diagnosis was still correct. I think the fact that he'd been admitted for the 3rd time with same symptoms should have been a red flag. Charlie lacked capacity. He needed an advocate there for him, somebody questioning. If he was a child, the hospital would have ensured that there was a relative there who could give a qualified opinion.
And what he was like and whether he was acting in a way that you would expect him to act.
I think that if Charlie was in distress, he wouldn't show outward signs of distress. That's the nature of his incapacity, if you like. And there seemed to be a lack of an awareness that was the case. The bottom line is that Charlie died because he swallowed something that he shouldn't have. We don't know where he got these things from. And really, it's irrelevant because you can make extreme efforts to make surroundings safe, but ultimately you cannot, without impinging so much on his life that it would make him miserable, you cannot totally protect his environment. So I'm not interested in apportioning blame as far as swallowing foreign body is concerned. The coroner agreed that the cause of his death was an intestinal obstruction, but contributory cause was negligence, medical negligence on the part of the hospital. And that, I think, needs to be addressed. It's all very well having an advocate, but if they're only there 9 till 5, what happens after that? I should have been informed, and I think things might have been different. I mean, I feel sorry for the doctor because having been in medical practice, I know what it's like when people allege medical negligence. It's awful because you go into medicine to help people, not fail them. And we all have failures. But this was failure on a very large scale. And I don't blame the person, the one person, medical persons he did see. I say, where were the consultants? Where were the registrars? Where was the supervision?
I think one of the things that's interesting as well is, and one of the things that struck me about this entire process is the hospital didn't want a post-mortem.
Well, I understand now.
It was the coroner that insisted on a post-mortem. And then the process that we've gone through since then has opened our eyes beyond comprehension to the care that people get after death. The fact that this has since happened and has all come to light, all these areas that we knew nothing about at the time, has come to light because of the insistence of the coroner on having that post-mortem. I mean, it makes me proud to live in a country where care will be given to find out the full facts, to understand, and to me it gives a real purpose to Charlie's life. We're talking about some of the most vulnerable people in our society. If we don't look after these people, what sort of a society do we have? I mean, you know, these sorts of programs and having these reports now, to us, having lived with Charlie and known Charlie his whole life, are so important. You know, these people have as much right to live a happy and cared for life as the next person. So if you don't have reports into the reasons behind death, then we're never going to care more for these people. If lessons can be learned from it and it saves somebody else's life, then, you know, it's worth it.
I hope so.